It had been 5 years since the divorce, 5 years since she'd seen him, and she'd hoped he wouldn't attend their 15-year high school reunion. But there he stood by the bar, his arm around a thin blonde woman wearing a dress that cost more than Naomi's car payment. Brittany. The woman he'd left her for. Naomi smoothed down her navy dress and reminded herself why she came. She'd built a successful business. She'd lost the weight she'd gained during her mother's illness. She'd survived the worst period of her life and come out stronger. She had nothing to be ashamed of. She was wrong. Well. Look who actually showed up. Trevor's voice carried across the room, loud enough that conversations stopped. I didn't think you'd have the nerve, Naomi. Not after everything. Naomi's stomach dropped. She turned to see him walking toward her, that familiar smirk on his face. Brittany followed, her expression smug. Around them, former classmates started pulling out their phones. Trevor, Naomi said quietly. It's good to see you. Is it? He laughed, and it wasn't kind. Come on, everyone. Let's hear it for Naomi Patterson. Remember her? Voted most likely to succeed? Well, life had other plans, didn't it? Heat rushed to Naomi's face. I don't know what you're trying to. She runs a little consulting business from her apartment, Trevor announced to the growing crowd. Real impressive stuff. Not quite the corner office she dreamed about, right, babe? Remember when we were married and you said you'd be a CEO by 30? Brittany giggled. You told me she had big dreams but no follow-through. That's not fair, Naomi managed, her voice shaking. You know what I went through. My mother was dying and I... Always an excuse, Trevor cut her off. Your mom passed 3 years ago, Naomi. What's your excuse now? Still single? Still struggling? I mean, look at you. You tried, I'll give you that. Lost some of that weight you packed on. But let's be real, you're not exactly living your best life. The room felt too hot. Too small. Naomi saw faces she'd known since childhood watching her with pity or curiosity or worse, amusement. Someone was definitely recording this. I remember when we were married, Trevor continued, warming to his audience. She'd cry every night about her mom. Gained 40 pounds. Stopped taking care of herself. Stopped taking care of me. I mean, what was I supposed to do? A man has needs. You were having an affair, Naomi said, finding her voice. While my mother was dying in hospice, you were sleeping with her. She pointed at Brittany. Brittany stepped forward, her smile sharp. Maybe if you'd been a better wife, he wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. The words hit Naomi like physical blows. She'd known coming here was a risk, but she'd never imagined this. Public humiliation. Trevor airing their private pain like entertainment. Remember our wedding? Trevor asked the room. She wore white. Made all these promises. Said she'd always put me first. Turns out that was a lie. She put her dying mother first. Put her grief first. Put everything before her husband. My mother was dying, Naomi repeated, louder this time. She raised me alone after my father left. She was all I had. And that's why you're alone now, Trevor said, his voice falsely sympathetic. Because you never learned how to prioritize the right things. I mean, look at me. I moved on. Found someone who actually appreciates me. We just bought a house in the suburbs. Brittany's expecting our first child. That one hurt. Naomi and Trevor had tried for years to have a baby. She'd had 2 miscarriages that broke her heart. And now he was having a child with the woman he cheated with. I'm happy for you, Naomi whispered, though the words tasted like ash. Are you though? Trevor leaned in close enough that only she could hear. Are you happy in that small apartment? Working 60 hours a week for clients who barely pay? Coming home to nobody? Because I'm living my best life, and you're still stuck in the past, bitter about a marriage that failed because you failed. Naomi's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Around them, people shifted uncomfortably, but nobody intervened. This was the entertainment for the evening. The successful guy and his new wife versus the ex-wife who couldn't keep him. I should go, Naomi said, turning toward the exit. Yeah, probably for the best, Trevor called after her. Wouldn't want to bring down the party with your whole sad situation. Laughter followed her. Not from everyone, but enough. Enough to make her face burn with shame. Enough to make her wonder why she'd thought coming here was a good idea. She was 3 steps from the door when it opened, and everything changed. The man who walked through the entrance made the entire room go silent. He was tall, with dark skin and a presence that commanded attention. His suit was perfectly tailored, probably custom-made, and the watch on his wrist caught the light like it was made of diamonds. Because it probably was. He scanned the room once, his eyes landing on Naomi, and his entire face transformed into a warm smile. There you are, he said, walking straight to her like nobody else existed. I'm so sorry I'm late, sweetheart. The meeting ran long. Naomi stared at him, confused, as he reached her side and wrapped an arm around her waist. Then he kissed her. It was brief, appropriate for a public setting, but unmistakably the kiss of a man who knew her well. When he pulled back, he kept his arm around her and turned to face the silent crowd. I'm Dominic Ashford, he said pleasantly. Naomi's husband. Behind her, Naomi heard someone gasp. Someone else whispered, Ashford? Like the Ashford Technologies Ashford. Trevor's face had gone completely white. Naomi's mind raced. She'd never seen this man before in her life. Yet he stood beside her with his arm around her waist like they'd been together for years, and the way he looked at her was so genuine that even she almost believed it. Husband. Trevor finally managed. Naomi, you're married? 2 years next month, Dominic said smoothly. He extended his hand to Trevor, who took it automatically. Dominic's grip was firm enough to make Trevor wince slightly. And you must be the ex-husband. Trevor, right? My wife has told me so much about you. The way he said ex-husband made it sound like something unimportant. Something discarded. Dominic Ashford? Someone in the crowd asked. The tech billionaire? Guilty, Dominic said with an easy smile. He turned to Naomi, and the warmth in his eyes was so real it made her chest ache. I apologize for being late, love. The Singapore office had an emergency that couldn't wait. But I promised I'd be here for your reunion, and I meant it. It's okay, Naomi heard herself say, playing along because what else could she do? This stranger was saving her from the worst humiliation of her life. Dominic addressed the room. I have to say, when Naomi told me about her high school years, she spoke so highly of everyone. She was excited to reconnect. His gaze shifted to Trevor, and something cold flickered in his expression. Though she did mention one person who showed his true character rather clearly. Trevor's jaw tightened. Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but... No game, Dominic interrupted. Just setting the record straight. See, I walked in and heard you discussing my wife's career. Her little consulting business. I believe you called it? Well, I mean, compared to what she wanted. Patterson Consulting Group pulled in $8 million in revenue last year, Dominic said calmly. Naomi has 43 employees across 3 offices. She's consulted for Fortune 500 companies on their diversity and inclusion initiatives. She was featured in Forbes last month. Does that sound like someone who failed to achieve her dreams? The room was completely silent now. Naomi's heart pounded. None of that was true. Her business was successful, yes, but not at that level. Yet Dominic spoke with such confidence that people were nodding, believing him. And as for her personal life, Dominic continued, pulling Naomi closer, I proposed to her in Paris. We were married at a private ceremony in Tuscany. We split our time between our penthouse here and our home in Martha's Vineyard. We're planning to build a house in Aspen next year. Brittany's mouth had fallen open. Trevor looked like he might be sick. But more importantly, Dominic said, and his voice softened, Naomi is the kindest, most resilient woman I've ever met. She built her business from nothing while caring for her dying mother. She turned her pain into purpose by creating a foundation that helps women entrepreneurs get started. She donates her time mentoring young women in business. She's everything I could ever want in a partner. He looked down at Naomi, and for a moment she forgot this was an act. The admiration in his eyes seemed absolutely real. So when I walked in and heard someone trying to shame her, Dominic continued, looking back at Trevor, someone who clearly doesn't know her worth, well, I felt the need to correct the record. This is insane, Trevor said, his voice rising. You're lying. All of this is lies. Naomi doesn't have a consulting empire. She doesn't live in a penthouse. And she's definitely not married to a billionaire. Would you like to see the marriage certificate? Dominic asked pleasantly. Or perhaps you'd prefer to Google my name and see the photos of us from the charity gala we attended last month. The one where we donated $500,000 to women's shelters. Someone in the crowd was already pulling out their phone. Oh my God, a woman breathed. It's true. There are pictures everywhere. Naomi Patterson Ashford. Naomi's head spun. How was this possible? The media loves us, Dominic said, smiling at Naomi. The self-made businesswoman and the tech CEO. They say we're relationship goals. He paused, then added, unlike some people who build their relationships on affairs and betrayal. Brittany flinched. Trevor's face had gone from white to red. You know what I find interesting? Dominic continued. My wife never speaks badly about you, Trevor. Even after everything you put her through. The affair while her mother was dying. The financial abuse. draining the joint accounts for your little trips with your mistress. She could have destroyed your reputation, but she took the high road. Financial abuse? Someone whispered. Oh, she didn't tell you that story? Dominic looked around the room. During their divorce, it came out that Trevor had been embezzling from their joint business. Naomi had to sue him to get back what he stole. But again, she kept it quiet. She didn't want to ruin his life, even though he tried to ruin hers. Trevor took a step forward. You have no right. I have every right to defend my wife, Dominic said, and now his voice had an edge. Especially from someone who treated her like garbage and now has the nerve to humiliate her publicly. Tell me, how's your business doing, Trevor? I heard you started a marketing firm after the divorce. How's that working out? Trevor's silence was answer enough. That's what I thought, Dominic said. Now, if you'll excuse us, my wife and I came here to reconnect with people who actually matter. People who treated her with respect. People who are worth her time. He guided Naomi away from Trevor and Brittany toward a group of former classmates who looked stunned. Behind them, Naomi heard Trevor arguing with Brittany in harsh whispers. Play along, Dominic murmured in her ear. I'll explain everything. Just trust me for now. Naomi nodded, still too shocked to process what was happening. But as people began approaching them with congratulations and questions, as she saw the look of defeat on Trevor's face, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Oh, the champagne tasted bitter. Not because of the drink itself, but because of the memory it triggered. Naomi sat alone in her apartment 3 years ago, holding a glass of wine that had long gone warm, staring at her phone screen in disbelief. The text messages had come from an unknown number. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Conversations between Trevor and someone named B. Can't wait to see you tonight. Told in I'm working late again. She's so focused on her mom, she doesn't even notice I'm gone. Did you see how much weight she's gained? It's disgusting. I can barely look at her anymore. Once the old lady dies, I'll make my move. Just need to secure the business assets first. Naomi had read them all, each one worse than the last. The final screenshot was the worst. The selfie. Trevor and a blonde woman in bed, her head on his chest. The message below it read, Best anniversary ever. Glad Ann thinks you're at that conference. Their anniversary. Last year. While Naomi had been sitting in hospice holding her mother's hand, Trevor had been in a hotel room with his mistress. The unknown number had sent one final message. Thought you should know. He's planning to leave you as soon as your mom passes. Says you'll be too grief-stricken to fight the divorce terms. Someone who knows what it's like to be lied to. Later, Naomi learned the texts came from Brittany's ex-best friend. A woman who discovered the affair and tried to warn Brittany's previous boyfriend. When that relationship imploded, she decided Naomi deserved to know the truth too. Naomi hadn't confronted Trevor that night, or the next day, or the day after that. Instead, she'd done something he never expected. She'd gotten smart. The next morning, she'd called a divorce attorney. Not just any attorney, but the best one in the city. A woman named Simone who'd built her reputation destroying unfaithful spouses in court. I need you to tell me exactly what evidence I need, Naomi had said, her voice calm despite the rage burning in her chest. I need to make sure he doesn't take anything that's mine. Simone had been impressed by her control. Most women come in here crying. You sound like you're planning a military operation. My mother taught me never to let anyone see you cry, Naomi had replied. Save the tears for when the war is won. The investigation had started immediately. Simone recommended a forensic accountant, a private investigator, and a therapist. You'll need all three, she'd said. The accountant to find where he's hiding money. The investigator to document the affair. The therapist to keep you sane while you pretend everything is normal. Pretending had been the hardest part. Coming home every night to a man she now knew was betraying her. Sleeping in the same bed. Listening to his lies about working late. Watching him text Brittany right in front of her, confident that Naomi was too grief-stricken to notice. Her mother had passed 2 weeks after Naomi received the screenshots. In those final days, Naomi had sat by her bedside, holding her hand, telling her about the divorce she was planning. Her mother, weak from cancer but still fierce, had whispered her approval. Never let a man make you small, she'd said. And never let him get away with stealing from you. The forensic accountant had been worth every penny. Within 3 weeks, he'd uncovered something even Naomi hadn't suspected. Trevor wasn't just having an affair. He was embezzling from their joint marketing business. They'd built Patterson and Hayes Marketing together right after college. Naomi had handled the creative side while Trevor managed finances and client relationships. She trusted him completely. That trust had cost her almost $200,000. Trevor had been slowly draining business accounts for over a year. Small amounts at first, then larger sums. He'd created fake vendor accounts, paid invoices for services never rendered, and pocketed the difference. He'd used that money to fund his affair with Brittany. Expensive hotels, weekend trips to wine country, designer gifts. He's been planning this for a while, the accountant had told Naomi. These transactions show clear intent to hide assets before a divorce. He knew exactly what he was doing. The private investigator's report had been equally damning. Photos of Trevor and Brittany at restaurants, holding hands, entering hotels together, kissing in parking lots. The investigator had even recorded Trevor bragging to a friend at a bar about his exit strategy. "I give it 6 months after the mom dies," Trevor had said, drunk and careless. "Naomi will be a mess. I'll tell her I can't handle her depression anymore. I'll look like the reasonable one. She'll probably let me keep the business just to avoid fighting." He'd laughed. Actually laughed about destroying the woman he'd promised to love forever. Naomi had listened to that recording in Simone's office. Her hands clenched so tight her nails drew blood from her palms. "Good," Simone had said, watching her reaction. "Hold on to that anger. You're going to need it." The divorce papers had been served at Trevor's office. Naomi had made sure of that. She wanted his colleagues to see. Wanted Brittany, who worked in the same building, to know exactly what was happening. The lawsuit for embezzlement had been served the same day. Trevor had called her 15 times that afternoon. She'd ignored every call. Let him panic. Let him scramble. When he finally came home, he'd found Naomi sitting calmly at the kitchen table, all his belongings packed in boxes. "You're insane," he'd shouted. "You can't just throw me out." "This is my apartment," Naomi had replied quietly. "My name is on the lease. Yours isn't. You have 1 hour to take your things and leave, or I call the police." "The business? The business you stole from?" "Yes, let's talk about that in court." His face had gone white. "What are you talking about?" Naomi had slid a folder across the table. Bank statements. Transaction records. Every piece of evidence the forensic accountant had compiled. "You took almost $200,000, she'd said. "While my mother was dying, you were stealing from our company to fund your affair. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Trevor had tried everything. Denial. Anger. Bargaining. He'd cried. Actually cried. Begged her to understand that it was the stress, that he never meant to hurt her, that they could fix this. "Get out," Naomi had said. "You have 58 minutes left." He'd taken his boxes and left. Filed a countersuit claiming Naomi had abandoned the marriage by prioritizing her mother. Tried to paint himself as the victim of a wife who'd stopped caring about him. The judge hadn't been sympathetic. 9 months later, Naomi had walked out of court with everything. The apartment. Her half of the business, which she immediately sold. A settlement for the embezzled funds plus damages. And her self-respect. Trevor had walked out with debt, a ruined reputation, and Brittany, who'd married him anyway. Why would she stay with him? Naomi had asked Simone after the final hearing. Simone had shrugged. Some women think they won a prize when they get the cheater. They don't realize the prize is broken. Now, standing in the hotel ballroom with a stranger's arm around her, Naomi realized she'd never properly celebrated that victory. She'd been too busy surviving, building her new life, trying to forget the pain. But maybe it was time to remember exactly how strong she'd become. Dominic Ashford was not what Naomi had expected a billionaire to look like. Up close, away from the crowd, she could see laugh lines around his eyes and a small scar on his chin. He guided her to a quiet corner of the venue, near the windows overlooking the city, and now stood with his hands in his pockets looking almost nervous. "I owe you an explanation," he said. "You think?" Naomi's voice came out sharper than she intended. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by confusion and exhaustion. "You just told a room full of people we're married. You made up an entire life for us. Who are you really?" Dominic Ashford. That part was true. He pulled out his phone and showed her his driver's license, then several news articles featuring his photo. Tech entrepreneur. Founded Ashford Technologies 12 years ago. Currently worth about $3 billion according to Forbes, though that fluctuates. Naomi stared at the screen, then at him. "Why would a billionaire crash my high school reunion pretending to be my husband?" "Because I was at the hotel for a meeting, heard shouting from the ballroom, and walked in to see a man verbally abusing a woman in public." Dominic's expression hardened. "I have 3 sisters. I've seen what emotional abuse looks like. and I wasn't going to stand there and watch it happen. So you just decided to rescue me? By lying to everyone? I made a split-second decision. Maybe not the best one legally speaking. He smiled slightly. My lawyers are going to have a field day with this. But I saw you about to leave in tears and that man looking so satisfied with himself, and I thought, no, not tonight. Tonight she wins. Naomi's throat tightened. You don't even know me. No, Dominic agreed. But I know men like him. My ex-wife cheated on me with my business partner. Tried to steal company secrets to fund their competing startup. Then played the victim when I divorced her, telling everyone I was a workaholic who neglected her. He shrugged. People who betray you always find a way to make it your fault. Your ex-wife cheated? Naomi found herself asking. 5 years ago. Signed a prenup, thankfully, so the divorce was financially clean. Emotionally? He laughed without humor. That took longer to recover from. But I learned something important. The best response to people who try to humiliate you isn't matching their cruelty. It's succeeding so completely that they become irrelevant. Naomi studied him carefully. The things you said about my business, my revenue numbers, my Forbes feature. Total fabrication, Dominic admitted. I apologize for that. But tell me, how did it feel when his face went white? Despite everything, Naomi smiled. Pretty good. How much of what I said was actually false? The question surprised her. I do run a consulting business, Patterson Consulting, but it's just me and 2 part-time contractors. We made about $200,000 last year, not $8 million. I work from a home office, not 3 locations. And I've never been to Tuscany. What about the Forbes article? I was quoted in a local business journal. Not exactly the same thing. Dominic nodded thoughtfully. And the foundation? The mentoring? That part's real, Naomi said quietly. I started a nonprofit that helps women rebuild after divorce. We provide small business grants and financial literacy training. It's not huge, but it matters. See? The core of it was true. I just amplified the volume. He pulled out his phone again. Speaking of which, we should probably address the pictures. What pictures? Dominic turned his screen to show her a Google search for Dominic Ashford wife. The results showed photos of Dominic at various events. Always alone or with business associates. No wife. So when Trevor Googles us, he'll find nothing, Naomi said. Not yet. Dominic's expression turned mischievous. But I know people. Really good people with cameras and Photoshop skills. By tomorrow morning, there will be pictures of us at charity events. Social media posts. Maybe even a wedding announcement in the society pages, backdated 2 years. Naomi's eyes widened. You can't do that. That's fraud. That's creative storytelling, Dominic interrupted. Look, here's the situation. I told a room full of people we're married. They're probably already posting about it on social media. By morning, this will be everywhere. We have 2 choices. 1, I issue a statement saying it was a misunderstanding, you're humiliated again, and Trevor gets to laugh about the crazy billionaire who lied for you. Or 2, we commit to the bit. Commit to the bit? Naomi repeated. For a while. A few months, maybe. We appear together at public events. Get photographed. Build a believable narrative. Then we have a quiet, amicable divorce. Irreconcilable differences or whatever. You come out of it with your dignity intact and a very generous settlement that will fund your business expansion. You want to fake a marriage. I want to help you beat a bully, Dominic corrected. And honestly, I'm tired of being asked when I'm going to settle down again. Having a wife, even a fake one, will get the matchmakers off my back. We'd be helping each other. Naomi shook her head. This is insane. People don't do things like this. People with resources do whatever they want, Dominic said simply. And I have significant resources. The question is, do you want to walk out of here tonight as the woman who got publicly humiliated by her ex? Or as the woman who married a billionaire and built an empire? Naomi looked past him to where Trevor stood with Brittany, arguing in hushed tones. Even from here, she could see the panic on his face. For once, he was the one off balance. The one scrambling. Why would you do this for me? She asked quietly. Dominic was quiet for a moment. My youngest sister went through a divorce last year. Her husband cheated, then tried to destroy her reputation to cover his guilt. He almost succeeded. She almost gave up on everything she'd built because she was so broken down. I helped her, but not before she'd already suffered so much. He met Naomi's eyes. When I saw that man humiliating you, I saw her. And I thought, not this time. This time the good person wins. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. She'd spent so long fighting alone, building her business alone, surviving alone. The idea that someone might actually be on her side, even a stranger, was almost too much to process. "If we do this," she said slowly, "there have to be rules, boundaries. Of course, we'll have a contract. Everything legal and documented. You'll have your own lawyer review it. This is a business arrangement, nothing more. And when it's over, when we divorce, you'll be financially set enough to take your business to whatever level you want. 8 million in revenue? We can make that real. Forbes feature? I'll make the introduction myself. And Trevor will spend the rest of his life knowing he had something valuable and threw it away." Naomi looked at Dominic's extended hand. This was crazy. Completely, utterly crazy. But then again, so was marrying Trevor. So was trusting him with her heart and her business. So was spending a year drowning in grief while he stole from her. Maybe crazy was exactly what she needed. She shook his hand. "Okay, let's do it." Dominic's smile was triumphant. "Excellent. Now let's go enjoy your reunion, Mrs. Ashford. We have a performance to give." Naomi had never been to a charity gala before meeting Dominic. Now, 3 months after that fateful reunion, she was adjusting diamond earrings in the mirror of a penthouse suite that still didn't feel quite real. The past 12 weeks had been a whirlwind. True to his word, Dominic had assembled a team overnight. By the morning after the reunion, professionally edited photos of Naomi and Dominic appeared on social media. A wedding announcement, backdated 2 years, was published in the society pages. Their love story had been carefully crafted by a PR team. They'd met at a business conference, bonded over late-night conversations about ethics and tech, fell in love slowly and deliberately. The fake marriage contract Dominic's lawyers had drawn up was more thorough than Naomi's real marriage license had been. Every detail was specified. Public appearances, minimum 2 per month. Social media posts, coordinated through the PR team. Private life, completely separate unless cameras were present. Financial arrangements. Naomi received a monthly allowance of $50,000, which she'd immediately funneled into expanding her business. Duration, 1 year with option to extend or end early by mutual agreement. "It's not fraud if we're both consenting adults who understand the arrangement," Dominic's lawyer had explained. "Think of it as a very elaborate publicity stunt." Naomi had hired her own attorney, of course. Simone had been both horrified and impressed. "This is either brilliant or career suicide," Simone had said. "Possibly both. But the contract is solid. If anything goes wrong, you're protected." Now Naomi stood in a borrowed penthouse. Dominic actually owned 3 properties in the city, preparing for her first major public appearance as his wife. The charity gala supported women's entrepreneurship, which was actually perfect given her real work. "You ready?" Dominic appeared in the doorway, looking devastating in a black tuxedo. Over the past 3 months, Naomi had learned he was naturally kind, genuinely funny, and surprisingly down-to-earth for a billionaire. They'd fallen into an easy friendship, meeting for coffee to coordinate their stories, texting each other jokes, actually enjoying their arrangement. "Nervous," Naomi admitted. "What if someone realizes we're faking?" "They won't. You know why?" Dominic crossed the room and took her hands. "Because the best lies are built on truth. We genuinely like each other." He was right. The chemistry between them wasn't romantic, but it was real, and a mutual appreciation for old movies and terrible puns. The gala was everything Naomi had imagined high society events would be. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, champagne fountains. Dominic kept his hand on the small of her back, introducing her to tech CEOs, venture capitalists, philanthropists. Everyone was charming to her face, but Naomi could see the calculation in their eyes. Who was this unknown woman who'd captured Dominic Ashford's heart? "Tell me about your consulting work," a woman named Patricia asked. She ran a venture capital firm and had the kind of sharp intelligence that saw through nonsense. Naomi took a breath and told the truth. "I help small businesses develop ethical practices and inclusive cultures. A lot of my clients are women-owned companies that are scaling up and need guidance on maintaining their values while growing." Interesting. That's not what I expected from someone married to a tech billionaire. "Because you assumed I don't actually work?" Naomi asked pleasantly. "Or because you assumed Dominic would want a wife who stays home?" Patricia's eyebrows rose, then she laughed. "I like you. You have spine. Too many women in this room are here to look pretty and smile. What's your revenue looking like?" "We're on track for 400,000 this year. Up from 200 last year." "Not bad. What's holding you back from scaling faster?" Naomi found herself in a genuine business conversation. Patricia had insights about accessing growth capital, building teams, and navigating the consulting industry. By the end of their talk, Patricia had handed her a business card. Call me next week. I want to hear more about your model. And if it's as solid as you say, I might want to invest. Really? Naomi couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. I invest in people who know what they're doing, Patricia said. You clearly do. Plus, anyone who can keep Dominic Ashford interested for more than 6 months must have something special. After Patricia walked away, Dominic appeared at Naomi's side. You just got a meeting with one of the most successful VCs in the country. How does it feel? Terrifying, Naomi admitted. What if she actually wants to invest? What if my business isn't ready? Then you get ready, Dominic said simply. Fake it till you make it, remember? We're already faking a marriage. Might as well fake confidence in business until it becomes real. As the evening continued, Naomi began to understand what Dominic had meant about the best lies being built on truth. She wasn't pretending to be a businesswoman, she was one. She wasn't pretending to care about women's entrepreneurship. She genuinely did. The only lie was the marriage, and even that felt less dishonest than her real marriage had been. Trevor had lied about loving her, respecting her, being faithful. Dominic was honest about their arrangement being fake. Which relationship was really the fraud? Later that night, after they'd returned to their separate apartments, Naomi received a text from a number she recognized. Trevor, saw you on social media at the gala. Very nice dress. Must be nice having a rich husband to buy you things. Naomi stared at the message for a long moment. 3 months ago this would have hurt. Now it just seemed pathetic. She typed back, I bought the dress myself with money from my business. But thanks for your concern about my wardrobe. His response came quickly. Look, I know things ended badly between us, but I've been thinking about you. Maybe we could meet for coffee? Talk about old times? Naomi showed the message to Dominic the next morning over their weekly strategy breakfast. He's struggling financially, Dominic said immediately. I had someone look into his business. He's about 6 months from bankruptcy. He wants to see if you'll help him. How do you know that? Because that's what people like him do. They burn bridges, then come crawling back when they need something. Dominic sipped his coffee. What do you want to do? Naomi thought about it. About the woman she'd been 3 years ago, crying in her apartment, broken by betrayal. About the woman she was now, sitting in an upscale cafe planning strategy with a billionaire who'd become a genuine friend. I want to ignore him, she said finally. He doesn't get access to me anymore. Not my time, not my sympathy, not my help. Dominic smiled. Good answer. Now, tell me about your meeting with Patricia. Did she make an offer? They spent the next hour discussing Naomi's business expansion plans. Patricia had indeed made an offer, $2 million in funding in exchange for 20% equity. It was a legitimate deal that would let Naomi hire a real team, open an actual office, and scale her services nationally. It's everything I dreamed about, Naomi said. But it's also terrifying. Most good things are, Dominic replied. Fear means you're pushing yourself to grow. The question isn't whether you're scared. It's whether you're brave enough to do it anyway. Naomi had signed the deal 2 weeks later. By the 6-month mark of her arrangement with Dominic, Patterson Consulting had 12 employees, an office downtown, and clients in 4 states. The foundation she'd started had awarded grants to 30 women rebuilding their lives after divorce. And Trevor had sent 17 more messages, each one more desperate than the last, all of which Naomi ignored. She was too busy building an empire to waste time on her past. The ballroom felt different now. Where before Naomi had sensed judgment and pity, she now felt curiosity and respect. People approached her and Dominic with congratulations, questions about their relationship, requests for business cards. Naomi Patterson, a familiar voice said. She turned to see Rachel Morrison, her best friend from sophomore year before they drifted apart. Oh my God, I can't believe it's really you. Rachel. Naomi hugged her genuinely. Of changing the world. How have you been? Good. Great, actually. I started a nonprofit working with underprivileged kids. We do art therapy programs. Rachel's enthusiasm was infectious. But tell me everything. Dominic Ashford? Billionaire? Married for 2 years? I'm going to need details because this is not how I imagined your life going. They found a quiet table, and Naomi found herself telling a version of the truth. She and Dominic had met at a business event. The relationship had developed slowly. Most of it was accurate, just rearranged and with key details omitted. I'm so happy for you, Rachel said warmly. Especially after Trevor. God, I never liked him. He always made everything about himself. You never said anything. You seemed happy. Or I thought you did. Rachel's expression grew serious. When I heard about the divorce, I wanted to reach out. But I didn't know what to say. Then I saw Trevor's social media posts about you being bitter and unable to move on, and I knew he was lying, but I still didn't know how to help. He posted about me? Naomi hadn't looked at Trevor's social media in years. Oh yeah. 4 months after the divorce, he was telling everyone you'd refused counseling, that you'd abandoned the marriage because of your mom's death, that you'd become impossible to live with. Rachel pulled out her phone and showed Naomi several archived posts. Each one painted Trevor as the long-suffering husband who tried to save a failing marriage. Naomi felt anger rise in her chest, but also something else. Vindication. Well, I think tonight put an end to that narrative. You think? Everyone's talking about how he tried to humiliate you and then your husband showed up and destroyed him. Rachel grinned. It was beautiful. I recorded some of it. Want to see? The video showed Trevor's face going from smug to shocked in real time as Dominic spoke. Naomi watched herself standing tall beside Dominic, saw the way the room's energy shifted completely. It was better than she'd imagined. Can you send me that? Naomi asked. Already posted it to the reunion Facebook group, Rachel said cheerfully. With the caption "Karma is real." It has 300 likes already. More former classmates approached throughout the evening. Some were genuine in their congratulations, clearly happy to see Naomi thriving. Others were obviously curious about the scandal, hoping for drama. Naomi handled both groups with grace, thanks to Dominic's steady presence beside her. I almost invested in Trevor's new company, a woman named Jennifer mentioned. She'd been captain of the debate team, sharp and analytical. He gave this whole pitch about innovative marketing strategies, but something felt off. Then I Googled him and found the embezzlement case. That's when I decided to pass. Smart decision, Dominic said. Due diligence saves a lot of heartbreak. It does. Which is why I looked you up too, Jennifer said to Naomi. Patterson Consulting has impressive growth metrics. Are you taking on new clients? Naomi handed her a business card, feeling surreal. She was networking at her high school reunion, using her real business, building actual connections. Across the room, she saw Trevor and Brittany sitting isolated at a corner table. Nobody was approaching them. Brittany's earlier smugness had been replaced with barely concealed fury. Trevor looked defeated, his shoulders slumped. Don't stare at them, Dominic murmured. You're above that now. I know. It's just weird seeing him like this. For so long, he was the one with power over me. And now he has none. That's what happens when you build your life on lies. Eventually, the foundation crumbles. A commotion near the entrance caught everyone's attention. A man in an expensive suit entered, looking around the room uncertainly. He spotted Trevor and walked over, leaning down to whisper something urgent. Trevor's face went even paler. That's his business partner, Dominic said quietly. Or was? I heard they had a falling out over finances. The conversation between Trevor and his former partner grew heated. Voices rose. Other attendees started pulling out phones again, sensing drama. We should go, Naomi said. I don't want to watch whatever this is. Agreed. We've made our point. Let's end on a high note. As they headed toward the exit, Rachel caught up with them. Hey, before you go. A bunch of us are planning a smaller reunion next month. Just the people who actually stayed decent humans. Would you come? I'd like that, Naomi said, surprised by how much she meant it. Great. I'll text you details. Rachel hugged her again. I'm really glad you're happy, Naomi. You deserve it. In the car on the way back, Naomi leaned her head against the window and watched the city lights blur past. You okay? Dominic asked. Yeah, just processing. 3 hours ago, I was about to be humiliated in front of everyone I went to high school with. Now I'm leaving as the success story. You were always the success story, Dominic said. Tonight just made it visible. Naomi's phone buzzed. Another text from Trevor's number. We need to talk. Please. It's important. She showed it to Dominic. He saw you're successful and connected now. He thinks you'll help him out of whatever mess he's in. Dominic's voice was matter-of-fact. Classic pattern. I'm not helping him. Good. You don't owe him anything. Naomi blocked Trevor's number and watched the message disappear from her screen. It felt like closing a door that should have been shut years ago. Thank you, she said quietly. For tonight. For all of this. You don't have to thank me. This arrangement benefits us both, remember? Still, you didn't have to be this kind about it. You could have just played the role and kept your distance. Dominic was quiet for a moment. Want to know a secret? I'm not actually doing this just for show anymore. You become a real friend. The business advice, the late-night conversations about ethics and purpose, the way you make me laugh at terrible puns. That's all genuine. So we're friends who are fake married? Stranger things have happened. He smiled at her. Besides, my sisters love you. They've already decided you're way too good for me. Your sisters know this is fake? Of course. I tell them everything. They think it's hilarious and romantic in equal measure. My youngest sister says we're like a rom-com waiting to happen. Naomi laughed. This is definitely not a rom-com. No, Dominic agreed. It's better. It's real people helping each other, building genuine friendship, and proving that the good guys can win sometimes. As they pulled up to Naomi's apartment building, she felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with romantic love and everything to do with being truly seen and valued. Same time next week for strategy breakfast? She asked. Wouldn't miss it. Naomi walked into her apartment feeling lighter than she had in years. On her coffee table sat the business proposal from Patricia, the investment that would change everything. On her laptop were emails from potential clients, opportunities that would have seemed impossible a year ago. And in her blocked contacts was Trevor's number, finally relegated to the past where it belonged. She was winning. Not through revenge or cruelty, but through building something better. Through becoming someone who didn't need to destroy her enemies because they weren't worth her time. It was the sweetest victory of all. The bathroom hallway was quiet, away from the noise of the reunion. Naomi washed her hands, checking her reflection one more time. The evening had gone better than she could have imagined. In a few minutes, she'd return to Dominic, maybe make a few more connections, then leave triumphant. The door opened behind her. Through the mirror, she saw Trevor enter. This was the women's restroom. This is the ladies' room, Naomi said coolly, not turning around. I know. I needed to talk to you alone. Trevor looked terrible up close. Dark circles under his eyes, a nervous energy that made him seem smaller than he was. 5 minutes. Please. We have nothing to discuss. Naomi, come on. Don't be like this. He attempted his old charming smile, the one that used to work on her. Now it just looked desperate. I know tonight got out of hand. The things I said, they were wrong. I was trying to be funny, impress Brittany. You know how it is. No, actually, I don't know how it is to publicly humiliate someone I supposedly once loved. Trevor flinched. Look, I'm sorry. Really. I've been under a lot of stress lately. The business isn't going well. Brittany's pregnancy is complicated. Money's tight. I wasn't thinking clearly. There it was. The real reason for this conversation. And you thought insulting me would help your stress? Naomi asked. No. I mean, yes. I don't know. He ran his hands through his hair. I saw you walk in looking good, looking confident, and I got angry. Because you moved on. You found someone better. And I'm stuck in the same place I was 5 years ago, except now I have more responsibilities and less money. That's not my problem, Trevor. I know. You're right. But maybe... He stepped closer, and Naomi instinctively backed away. Maybe we could talk? About old times? We had good years together, didn't we? Before everything went wrong. Before you started stealing from our business and sleeping with Brittany while my mother was dying, you mean? I made mistakes. Huge ones. But so did you. You shut me out during your mom's illness. You stopped caring about us. Naomi stared at him, amazed. My mother was dying. I know, and I should have been more supportive. But I needed support too. I felt abandoned. Brittany was just there when I needed someone. This is incredible, Naomi said quietly. You actually believe your own lies. You've convinced yourself that somehow your affair and your theft were my fault. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we both made mistakes. And maybe, he took a breath. Maybe there's a way to help each other now. You're successful. You married a billionaire. You clearly don't need money, but I do. Just a loan. To tide me over until my company gets back on track. Naomi laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want me to give you money? Not give. Loan. I'd pay you back. Like you paid back what you stole from our business? I'm in trouble, Naomi. Real trouble. The company is going under. Brittany's medical bills are piling up. Our house is going into foreclosure. I'm about to lose everything. His voice cracked. Please. For what we once meant to each other. What we once meant to each other? Naomi repeated. Trevor, you mocked my dying mother. You drained our bank accounts. You humiliated me tonight in front of everyone we grew up with, and now you want my help. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm desperate. You should have thought about that before you built your life on lies and theft. The bathroom door opened. Brittany walked in, her eyes immediately landing on Trevor. Her expression transformed from suspicious to hostile in seconds. What's going on here? She demanded. Nothing, Trevor said quickly. I was just talking to Naomi about... About what? About why you've been texting her for months. About why you keep mentioning her name. Brittany turned on Naomi, her face flushed. Stay away from my husband. I'm not interested in your husband, Naomi said calmly. In fact, I'd appreciate it if both of you would stay away from me. You think you're so special now because you married some rich guy, Brittany spat. But we all know the truth. You're still the same pathetic woman who couldn't keep Trevor happy. If making Trevor happy requires tolerating theft and infidelity, then I'm glad I failed. Brittany stepped forward aggressively. You don't know anything about our relationship. Trevor loves me. He chose me over you. And how's that working out? Naomi asked. Based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like you're both miserable, broke, and desperate. We're fine, Brittany insisted, but her voice wavered. Are you? Because your husband just asked me for money, which suggests things aren't actually fine. Brittany whirled on Trevor. You asked her for money? After everything we discussed? You promised you'd find another way. I'm out of options. Trevor shouted. My business partner quit. The investors pulled out. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. What did you want me to do? Not beg your ex-wife. Brittany screamed back. The door opened again. Dominic stepped in, his expression unreadable. Behind him was hotel security. There you are, Dominic said to Naomi. Someone mentioned seeing 2 people corner you in the restroom. I thought you might need assistance. I'm fine, Naomi said. I was just leaving. You brought security? Trevor asked incredulously. Are you serious? My wife mentioned you've been harassing her with unwanted texts, Dominic said pleasantly. And now you've followed her into a bathroom to continue that harassment. So yes, I brought security. Gentlemen? 2 security guards stepped forward. Sir, ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave the premises, one said to Trevor and Brittany. This is ridiculous, Trevor protested. I was just trying to have a private conversation. In the women's restroom, the guard pointed out, which is both inappropriate and against hotel policy. We're leaving, Brittany said, grabbing Trevor's arm. As they were escorted out, she turned back to Naomi with pure venom in her eyes. You think you've won something, but you're just another rich man's trophy wife. That's all you'll ever be. After they left, Naomi leaned against the sink, her hands shaking slightly. Are you okay? Dominic asked gently. Yeah, just angry. He actually asked me for money. After everything he did, he thought I'd just hand over cash because he's in trouble. Some people never learn that actions have consequences, Dominic said. The worst part? He genuinely believed he deserved my help. Like I owed him something. You don't owe him anything. Not sympathy, not money, not even acknowledgement. Dominic offered his arm. Ready to go back out there and finish this evening on your terms? Naomi took his arm, steadying herself. Yeah, let's do that. As they walked back into the ballroom, Naomi noticed people whispering, looking at their phones. The encounter with Trevor and Brittany had already been noted and was spreading through the reunion gossip chain. Let them talk, Dominic murmured. By tomorrow, the story will be about how your desperate ex-husband harassed you and was removed by security. Just another piece of evidence that you made the right choice leaving him. He was right. By the end of the evening, at least 5 people had approached Naomi to express concern about Trevor's behavior and to offer their support. The narrative had completely shifted. She wasn't the abandoned wife anymore. She was the successful woman who'd escaped a toxic relationship and built something better. As they finally left the venue, Naomi's phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You owe me. She showed it to Dominic. Forward that to my legal team, he said. We'll have them send a cease and desist letter. If he contacts you again after that, we file for a restraining order. It won't come to that, Naomi said, though she wasn't entirely sure. He's desperate, but he's not stupid. Once he realizes I'm serious about cutting him off, he'll move on to the next person he thinks will save him. Probably. But let's have the legal protection in place anyway. In the car, Naomi finally let herself relax. The evening was over. She'd survived Trevor's attempt at humiliation and his pathetic plea for help. She connected with old friends and made new business contacts. She'd proven to herself and everyone else that she was more than her failed marriage. "Thank you," she said to Dominic, "for having security check on me, for having my back." "That's what partners do," Dominic replied, "even fake ones." But as Naomi looked at him, she realized their partnership didn't feel fake anymore. It felt real in all the ways that mattered. Trust, respect, genuine care for each other's well-being. Maybe the marriage certificate was a performance, but the friendship was authentic. And that, she thought, was worth more than any real marriage she'd had with Trevor. The reunion wound down into smaller groups. The formal dinner portion had ended, and now people clustered in comfortable arrangements around the ballroom, reminiscing and catching up. Naomi found herself at a table with Rachel, Jennifer, and 3 other women she'd been friendly with in high school. Carmen, who'd become a teacher, Zara, now a physical therapist, and Nicole, who ran a small bakery. "Okay, but seriously," Carmen said, leaning forward with wine-flushed cheeks, "how did you go from divorced and struggling to married to a billionaire in 3 years? That's not normal people timeline." Naomi smiled, prepared for this question. "It's not as dramatic as it sounds. After my divorce, I focused on building my business. I went to a lot of networking events, conferences, professional development stuff. That's where I met Dominic. We were both speaking on a panel about business ethics." All of this was technically true. She had met Dominic at an event about business ethics. Their first official public appearance as a couple had been a panel discussion they'd been invited to after the reunion. "And it was just instant connection?" Zara asked. "Not instant, no. We exchanged business cards, stayed in touch professionally. Then one day he invited me to coffee to discuss a consulting project for his company. We talked for 4 hours. Then we met again. And again. It built slowly. Also technically true. Their friendship had developed over multiple coffee meetings as they figured out how to make their arrangement work." "That's actually really romantic," Nicole said wistfully. "My dating life is a disaster. Every guy I meet either wants something casual or has weird hang-ups about dating a woman who owns her own business." "Tell me about it," Carmen agreed. "I dated this guy for 6 months who seemed great, until he proposed and then immediately started talking about how I'd need to quit teaching once we had kids. Like my career was just a hobby I'd abandon." "Did you dump him?" Rachel asked. "Instantly. I love teaching. I'm not giving that up for anyone." The conversation shifted to relationships, careers, the balance women were expected to maintain. Naomi found herself sharing more honestly than she'd expected to. "After Trevor, I almost gave up on everything," she admitted. "Not just relationships, but my whole sense of self-worth. He'd convinced me that I was the problem. That I'd failed as a wife, that I was too focused on my mom, that I'd let myself go. I internalized all of it." "That's abuse," Jennifer said bluntly. "Emotional abuse. Making you doubt your reality. I know that now. But at the time, I just felt broken. And when someone you love tells you repeatedly that you're not enough, eventually you start believing it." Zara nodded. "My ex did something similar. Told me I was too sensitive, too emotional, too needy. Turned out he was cheating and needed to make me feel crazy so I wouldn't trust my instincts. Same with mine," Nicole added. "Gaslit me for 2 years about his gambling problem. Told me I was paranoid and controlling for asking about missing money. Why do they all use the same playbook?" Carmen wondered aloud. "Because it works," Jennifer said. "People who manipulate others have figured out that if you make someone doubt themselves enough, they'll accept anything." "So how did you break free from that?" Rachel asked Naomi. "Because clearly you did. You're confident now. Successful. How did you get from believing his lies to where you are today?" Naomi thought carefully. "Therapy helped. So did focusing on my work. Building my business gave me something concrete to point to, proof that I wasn't incompetent or incapable like he'd said. But honestly, the biggest shift came when I stopped caring whether Trevor thought I was worthy. I stopped trying to prove anything to him." "That's powerful," Zara said quietly. "It took time. After the divorce, I'd still sometimes catch myself thinking, what would Trevor say about this? Or, Trevor was right that I'm not good at this." Breaking those thought patterns was harder than leaving the marriage. "And now?" Carmen asked. "Do you still think about him?" "Not the way I used to. Now when I think about Trevor, it's more like remembering a hard lesson I learned. He taught me what I won't accept in my life. What I won't tolerate from people who claim to love me." Nicole raised her glass. "To hard lessons and the strength to survive them." They all clinked glasses. The conversation continued, growing more honest and vulnerable. Zara talked about recovering from an eating disorder. Nicole discussed the financial stress of keeping her bakery afloat during the pandemic. Rachel opened up about her battle with depression. Is it weird that this is the best reunion conversation I've had? Jennifer asked. Just being real about the hard stuff instead of pretending everything's perfect? It's not weird at all, Dominic said, approaching the table with fresh drinks. He'd been circulating around the room, giving Naomi space to reconnect with friends. Authenticity is rare, especially in settings like this where everyone's usually performing their best life. Join us, Rachel invited. We're discussing how life rarely goes according to plan. Dominic sat beside Naomi. That's definitely true. I plan to take my first company public by 30. Instead, I dealt with a messy divorce at 28 and had to rebuild both my business and my personal life. How did you handle that? Carmen asked. Not well at first, Dominic admitted. I threw myself into work, avoided processing the betrayal, pretended I was fine. It took my sister staging an intervention to make me realize I needed help. Therapy? Zara asked. Therapy, support groups for people dealing with betrayal, and eventually learning to trust again. He glanced at Naomi. Though I'm still working on that last part. The honesty in his voice surprised Naomi. They discussed his divorce before, but always in strategic terms. How it informed their current arrangement, what he'd learned about prenups and asset protection. This was different. This was real vulnerability. Do you think you'll ever fully trust someone again? Nicole asked. Dominic considered the question. I think trust isn't an all-or-nothing thing. It's built in small moments. Someone keeping their word. Someone showing up when they say they will. Someone respecting boundaries. You accumulate evidence that a person is trustworthy, and eventually you believe it. That's very logical, Jennifer observed. I'm an engineer, Dominic said with a smile. Everything's data and evidence. But relationships aren't logical, Rachel countered. They're messy and emotional and unpredictable. True. Which is why I appreciate when someone brings clarity and honesty to the mess. He looked at Naomi again. That's what drew me to my wife. She's direct. No games, no manipulation. Just clear communication about what she wants and needs. The women at the table sighed collectively. Where do we find men like you? Carmen asked. Because they're not on the dating apps. Everyone laughed and the conversation shifted to terrible dating stories. But Naomi sat quietly, processing what Dominic had just said. Was he still performing for their audience? Or had that been genuine? Later, when she and Dominic stepped outside for air, she asked him, Were you being real in there? About trust and evidence and all that? Yes, Dominic said simply. This arrangement started as a performance, but you know what? I've learned a lot about who you are over these months. And I trust you. Not because I'm pretending to for appearances, but because you've proven yourself trustworthy. How? You keep your word. You show up prepared for meetings. You respect boundaries we've set. You're honest about your business challenges instead of pretending everything's perfect. You've never tried to leverage our arrangement for anything beyond what we agreed to. He shrugged. That's trustworthy behavior. Naomi felt unexpected emotion rise in her throat. I trust you too. You've been kinder than you had to be. More supportive. This could have been purely transactional, but you've made it feel like friendship. It is friendship, Dominic said. The marriage might be paperwork, but the friendship is real. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights below. Inside, Naomi could hear laughter from the reunion, music playing, the hum of conversation. Thank you for tonight, she said finally. Not just for the rescue, though that was dramatic and perfect, but for giving me the chance to rewrite this narrative. To come here as someone successful instead of someone pitiful. You were never pitiful, Dominic corrected. You survived something terrible and built a new life. That's heroic, not pitiful. Tonight just made sure everyone else saw what I already knew, that you're remarkable. Naomi smiled. You're good at this whole supportive husband thing. Sure you don't want to make it real? She'd meant it as a joke, but Dominic's expression turned serious. If circumstances were different, I'd consider it. You're exactly the kind of partner I'd want. Smart, ethical, funny, resilient. But we both know this only works because it's temporary. Because there's an end date. He was right, of course. Their arrangement had clear terms and a clear exit strategy. Making it real would complicate everything. But a small part of Naomi wondered what it would be like to have this kind of partnership permanently. Not the marriage paperwork, but the genuine friendship and mutual support. Ready to head back in for the final hour? Dominic asked. Yeah, let's finish strong. As they returned to the ballroom, Naomi realized that tonight had given her more than vindication over Trevor. It had given her genuine reconnections with old friends, honest conversations about struggle and survival, and the knowledge that she wasn't alone in finding life complicated and messy. And it had deepened a friendship that, fake marriage aside, was one of the most real things in her life. The reunion coordinator, Mrs. Hampton, tapped the microphone to get everyone's attention. She'd been their school's guidance counselor and had organized every reunion since their graduation. Now in her 70s, she still had the commanding presence that could silence a rowdy gymnasium. "If I could have everyone's attention," she announced. "Before we close out this wonderful evening, I'd like to recognize some of our alumni who've made significant achievements since graduation." Naomi tensed. She hadn't been expecting this. First, we have Dr. Jonathan Pierce, who's now head of cardiology at St. Mary's Hospital. Applause as Jonathan stood and waved. Then there's Carmen Rodriguez, whose classroom won the National Teaching Excellence Award. More applause for Carmen, who looked both proud and embarrassed. Mrs. Hampton continued through several more names. Athletes who'd gone pro, scientists making breakthroughs, artists whose work had been featured in museums. Each recognition was met with genuine celebration. "And now," Mrs. Hampton said, her expression warming, "I want to recognize someone whose journey has been particularly inspiring. Naomi Patterson, or I should say, Naomi Patterson Ashford now." Naomi stood shakily as applause filled the room. She saw Dominic smiling encouragingly. Naomi has built a successful consulting business focused on ethical practices and inclusive workplaces. But more impressively, she's created a foundation that provides grants and support to women rebuilding their lives after divorce. The Patterson Foundation has helped over 50 women start their own businesses in just 2 years. That part was true. Naomi's foundation was small but mighty, and she was intensely proud of it. But what many of you may not know, Mrs. Hampton continued, is that the Ashford Foundation has just made a very generous donation to our school. A $2 million scholarship fund specifically for students from single-parent households, in memory of Naomi's late mother, Catherine Patterson. Naomi's breath caught. She looked at Dominic, who shrugged slightly, a small smile playing at his lips. "This scholarship will change lives," Mrs. Hampton said. "It will give opportunities to students who might not otherwise afford college. And it honors a woman who raised an incredible daughter while working 2 jobs and never complaining. Let's give Naomi and Dominic a round of applause for this extraordinary gift." The room erupted in standing applause. Naomi felt tears slip down her cheeks. A scholarship in her mother's name. It was perfect. As people sat back down, she leaned toward Dominic. "You did this without telling me? I wanted it to be a surprise. Your mother sounds like she was an amazing woman. She deserves to be remembered." Naomi wanted to hug him but settled for squeezing his hand tightly. Mrs. Hampton wasn't done. "We have a few more recognitions. Rachel Morrison, whose nonprofit has served over 1,000 children through art therapy programs." Rachel stood to warm applause. The coordinator went through several more names, then paused. "Now, I always like to be balanced in these recognitions. Not everyone's path is a success story. Sometimes life teaches us through failure what it couldn't teach us through success." The room grew uncomfortable. Where was she going with this? "I see we have Trevor Hayes here tonight." Trevor, who'd been trying to blend into the background at his corner table, looked up in alarm. "Trevor, I remember you. You were so ambitious. Told me you'd be a millionaire by 30. How did that work out?" The question was pointed enough to draw nervous laughter. Trevor's face flushed red. "Not great," he managed. "I heard about your business troubles," Mrs. Hampton continued, not unkindly. "Failed startup. Bankruptcy filing last month. That must be difficult." "This is inappropriate," Brittany stood up, defensive. "You can't just humiliate people at a reunion." "I'm not humiliating anyone, dear. I'm providing a teaching moment." Mrs. Hampton's expression was serious. "Trevor, you were bright and talented, but you were also arrogant. You thought success meant stepping on others, taking shortcuts. And look where that got you." The room was completely silent now. Meanwhile, Naomi, who you treated very poorly from what I understand, built something real through hard work and integrity. She helped others instead of using them. And now she's here, successful and happy while you're struggling. Do you understand the lesson? Trevor said nothing, just stared at his hands. "Character matters," Mrs. Hampton said simply. "How you treat people matters. You can have all the ambition in the world, but without integrity, you'll end up exactly where you are now. Alone, broke, and bitter." "That's enough," Brittany said, grabbing Trevor's arm. "We're leaving." Actually, you already were asked to leave earlier, Mrs. Hampton noted, after harassing Naomi in the restroom. But you came back in. So yes, please do leave. And Trevor? I hope you learned something from tonight. It's not too late to become a better person. As Trevor and Brittany made their way to the exit, the room remained quiet. Watching a person's public destruction was uncomfortable, even when they deserved it. But then Carmen started clapping. Slowly at first, then others joined. Not applause for Trevor's humiliation, but acknowledgement of the truth in Mrs. Hampton's words. Now then, Mrs. Hampton said, her tone lightening, let's end on a happier note. We have a slideshow of memories from 15 years ago. Let's remember when we were all young and stupid together. Laughter broke the tension as photos flashed on the screen. Awkward prom poses, terrible haircuts, sports teams celebrating victories. Naomi saw herself in several photos, always in the background, always looking serious, always trying so hard to prove herself. She barely recognized that girl. You were cute, Dominic whispered, pointing at a photo of Naomi at 18 holding a debate trophy. I was terrified, Naomi corrected. Trying to be perfect because I thought that's what it took to be worthy. And now I know I'm worthy whether I'm perfect or not. As the reunion wound to a close, people approached Naomi one final time. Some wanted business cards. Others wanted to thank her for the scholarship fund. A few just wanted to say they were happy she'd found happiness. Rachel hugged her tight. This was good. Reconnecting with you. Let's not wait another 15 years, okay? Deal. And I want to hear more about your nonprofit. Maybe the foundation can partner with you. I'd love that. Outside, waiting for their car, Naomi looked back at the hotel. 15 years ago, she'd walked into that school every day desperate to belong, to be seen, to matter. Tonight, she'd walked into that reunion already knowing her worth. The difference was everything. You know what's funny? She said to Dominic. I spent so much of my life worrying about what people like Trevor thought of me. Whether I was pretty enough, successful enough, good enough. And tonight proved that none of that mattered. The people who matter are the ones who see your value even when you're struggling. That's very wise, Dominic said. I learned it from someone smart. A friend who showed up when I needed him and asked for nothing in return except honesty. That friend sounds exceptional. He really is. The car arrived and they slid into the back seat. Naomi's phone buzzed with messages from people she'd reconnected with tonight. Actual friendships forming, business connections developing, a community she thought was lost forever now available again. All because one person had decided to be kind when he didn't have to be. The scholarship, Naomi said quietly. In my mom's name. That meant everything. How did you know? You talk about her sometimes. How hard she worked. How she sacrificed everything to give you opportunities. She deserves to be remembered as more than just someone who died. She deserves to be celebrated as someone who built something lasting. You. Naomi wiped away tears. Thank you for understanding that. Thank you for letting me be part of honoring her. They rode in comfortable silence back to the city. The reunion was over, but Naomi knew the impact would last far longer than one evening. She'd reclaimed her narrative, reconnected with genuine friends, and proven that success built on integrity would always outlast success built on lies. And she'd done it all while being completely, authentically herself. Trevor's humiliation tonight wasn't the victory. Naomi's confidence, her genuine happiness, her real accomplishments, those were the victory. Everything else was just noise. 3 months after the reunion, Naomi sat in her newly expanded office overlooking the city. Patterson Consulting now occupied an entire floor of a downtown building. Through the glass walls, she could see her team of 15 employees working on various client projects. The hum of productive activity filled the space. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. Board meeting just ended. Lunch. She smiled and texted back. Yes. The usual place. See you in 20. Their friendship had deepened significantly since the reunion. What had started as a strategic arrangement had evolved into genuine partnership. They still appeared together at public events. The performance continued for their respective audiences, but their private time together had become something Naomi valued more than she'd expected. Rachel knocked on her office door. Got a minute? Always. Come in. Rachel had become a regular visitor to the office. Her nonprofit and Naomi's foundation had partnered on a program providing art therapy to women rebuilding their lives after abuse or divorce. The collaboration was thriving. I have news, Rachel said, settling into a chair. Trevor's business officially declared bankruptcy last week. Someone sent me the filing. Naomi felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just a vague acknowledgement of information. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What else is there to say? I stopped tracking his life months ago. What happens to him isn't my concern. That's growth, Rachel observed. A year ago you would have felt something. Now he's just irrelevant. Exactly. He wanted to stay important in my story, even as the villain. I'm not giving him that power anymore. Rachel grinned. I love this for you. Speaking of growth, how's the expansion plan coming? They spent the next hour discussing business strategy. Naomi's consulting firm was opening offices in 2 new cities. The foundation had secured additional funding to expand its grant program. Everything was scaling faster than Naomi had imagined possible. You know what's amazing? Rachel said. You're actually living the dream you had at 18. Running a successful business, making a real impact, building something that matters. You just took a different path to get here. A much harder path than I expected. But you made it. And you're helping other women make it too. That's powerful. After Rachel left, Naomi reviewed the latest grant applications for her foundation. Women from across the country were applying for support. Money to start businesses, resources to escape bad situations, guidance to rebuild their lives. Each application told a story of struggle and determination. She approved funding for a woman starting a catering business after leaving an abusive marriage. Another grant went to a single mother launching a childcare service. A third supported a woman who'd lost everything in a divorce and was starting over at 50. Her mother would have been proud. At lunch, Dominic was already waiting at their favorite cafe, a small place that somehow stayed empty despite serving excellent food. They discovered it during one of their early strategy meetings and had been coming back ever since. You look happy, he observed as she sat down. I am. We just finalized the Chicago office lease. And the foundation approved 15 new grants this month. That's fantastic. You're changing lives, Naomi. We're changing lives, she corrected. The Ashford Foundation's contribution made most of this possible. True. But you're the one doing the actual work. I just write checks. They ordered lunch and fell into easy conversation about their respective projects. Dominic's company was developing new software aimed at making tech more accessible to underserved communities. The work genuinely excited him in a way his earlier business ventures hadn't. I've been thinking about our arrangement, Dominic said carefully. We're coming up on the 1-year mark soon. Naomi's stomach dropped slightly. She'd known this conversation was coming. Their contract stipulated 1 year with an option to extend or end the arrangement. Right. We should probably discuss that. We could extend, Dominic suggested. The public partnership has been beneficial for both of us. You've gotten access to investors and resources that accelerated your growth. I've had cover from aggressive matchmaking and speculation about my personal life. Very transactional, Naomi noted. That was the original point, Dominic reminded her. But I'll admit the friendship that developed was unexpected. And valuable. So you want to extend the contract? Dominic was quiet for a moment, studying his coffee. I don't know what I want, honestly. This started as a performance, but somewhere along the way it stopped feeling fake. Not the marriage, that's still paperwork. But the partnership, the trust, the way we support each other. That's real. It is, Naomi agreed quietly. So the question is whether maintaining the marriage performance helps or hinders what we've actually built. Naomi hadn't expected this level of honesty. What do you think? I think we should end the fake marriage, Dominic said. Not because I want to end our friendship or partnership. I absolutely don't. But because I think continuing the lie might prevent us both from finding something real with other people. The words stung more than Naomi expected. Have you met someone? No. But I've realized I'm ready to try. And I can't do that while I'm publicly married to you, even if it's fake. He looked at her seriously. Have you met anyone? No, Naomi admitted. I've been so focused on building the business that dating hasn't even been on my radar. Exactly. This arrangement has been safe for both of us. No risk, clear boundaries, mutual benefit. But maybe it's time to be brave enough for the messy, uncertain real thing. Naomi nodded slowly. You're right. Of course you're right. So we announce an amicable divorce. Irreconcilable differences. We stay friends and business partners, just without the marriage element. Yes, and we do it right. Controlled narrative, dignified announcement, clear messaging that we both remain committed to our respective foundations and business ventures. When? We could start the process next week. Have everything finalized by the end of the quarter. That gives us time to prepare people and control the story. Naomi felt unexpected sadness. Not because she was losing Dominic, he was right that their friendship would continue. But because this chapter was ending. The fake marriage had given her confidence when she needed it most. It had shielded her during vulnerable months of rebuilding. It had proven that she could trust again, even if the trust was built on unconventional terms. "Thank you," she said, "for everything this year gave me. The confidence, the connections, the proof that I deserve good things." "You always deserved good things," Dominic said gently. This just made them visible. They finished lunch discussing logistics. Lawyers to consult, statements to prepare, friends and family to inform. The conversation was practical, but beneath it ran currents of genuine affection and mutual respect. Walking back to her office, Naomi's phone buzzed. An unknown number. She almost ignored it, then curiosity got the better of her. The message read, "I hope you're happy with yourself. You destroyed my marriage and my life. Brittany." Still finding ways to blame everyone except the man who'd actually betrayed them both. Naomi deleted the message without responding. Brittany and Trevor could blame her all they wanted. She was done accepting responsibility for other people's choices. That evening, Naomi drove to the cemetery where her mother was buried. She hadn't visited in months, caught up in the whirlwind of business growth and public appearances. Now, with the reunion behind her and the fake marriage ending, she wanted to talk to the woman who'd taught her everything about resilience. "Hey, Mom," she said, settling onto the grass beside the headstone. "I know it's been a while. Things have been complicated." The evening was quiet, just the sound of wind through trees and distant traffic. "I went to my reunion a few months ago. Trevor was there. He tried to humiliate me in front of everyone just like he used to do in private. But someone helped me. A friend who became so much more than I expected." She told her mother about Dominic, about the arrangement, about everything that had transpired. About the business success and the foundation and the women they were helping. "There's a scholarship in your name now. $2 million for kids from single-parent homes. Just like you raised me. You're gonna change lives, Mom. The way you changed mine." Naomi wiped tears from her cheeks. "I know you'd be proud of me. Not for the money or the business success, but for learning to value myself. For refusing to accept less than I deserve. For building something real instead of chasing approval from people who don't matter." She stayed until sunset, watching the light fade across the headstones. When she finally stood to leave, she felt lighter. More certain. Her mother had taught her that the best revenge was living well. Not destroying your enemies, but building a life so good that their opinions became irrelevant. Naomi had finally learned that lesson. Driving home, she thought about what Dominic had said. About being brave enough for something real. About ending the safe arrangement and risking actual vulnerability again. He was right. It was time. The next morning, she called her lawyer and started the divorce process. Within days, the announcement would go public. Naomi Patterson Ashford and Dominic Ashford were ending their marriage amicably after irreconcilable differences. They remained friends and committed to their respective charitable work. The narrative was clean, dignified, and entirely believable. But more importantly, it was freeing. 2 weeks later, Naomi attended Rachel's fundraiser for the art therapy nonprofit. She went alone. No Dominic, no performance, just herself. And it felt good. "You look different," Rachel observed. "Lighter somehow." "I feel lighter." The divorce finalized yesterday. "How are you doing with that?" "Good, actually. Dominic and I are having lunch next week to discuss a new foundation partnership. We're still friends. Just not married." "And you're okay?" Naomi smiled. "I'm better than okay. I'm free." Later that evening, a man approached her at the bar. He was handsome, confident, and when he smiled, it reached his eyes. "I heard you speak earlier," he said, "about your foundation. I run a nonprofit focused on financial literacy. I think our organizations might have overlapping goals." "I'd be interested in hearing more," Naomi said. His name was Jordan. He was divorced, had 2 kids, and spoke passionately about helping people escape cycles of debt and poverty. They talked for 2 hours, exchanged business cards, and agreed to meet for coffee the following week. Naomi didn't know if it would lead anywhere. Maybe Jordan would become a business partner. Maybe a friend. Maybe something more. Or maybe nothing at all. But the possibility was there, and that was enough. Driving home, Naomi thought about the woman she'd been at 18, desperate to prove herself worthy. The woman she'd been at 30, broken by betrayal and struggling to survive. The woman she'd been at 33, walking into a reunion terrified of judgment. And the woman she was now, at 35, who'd built an empire on integrity, helped dozens of other women rebuild their lives, and learned to value herself independent of anyone else's opinion. The journey hadn't been what she'd planned. It had been harder, messier, more painful. But it had also been more rewarding than she could have imagined. Trevor had tried to destroy her reputation and her confidence. Instead, he'd forced her to discover her own strength. Brittany had tried to make her feel worthless. Instead, she'd proven her own value. And Dominic? He'd given her the gift of believing in herself again, of trusting that good people existed, of knowing that partnerships could be built on mutual respect instead of manipulation. The fake marriage was over. But the real transformation it had sparked was permanent. Naomi pulled into her parking garage, gathered her things, and headed up to her apartment. On her coffee table sat a framed photo from the reunion, her and Dominic, smiling genuinely, friends who'd helped each other when they needed it most. She didn't regret a single moment of their arrangement, but she was ready for what came next. Ready to build something real, something lasting, something entirely her own. And this time she knew exactly what she deserved.